Welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. Tonight is a massive milestone for us as we broadcast live right here on Substack for the very first time. Out of our 400 plus interviews, my co-host Chris Hooley and I are very excited for this, but as you might notice, he is not currently here. And that is because he's late classically, so do not worry, he might be able to tune in, but we'll see. And we've got a great guest joining us tonight, an absolute powerhouse in the literary world, an author, book coach, and publishing industry insider, Courtney Maum. Courtney's been an invaluable champion for the writers everywhere, perhaps best known to many for her definitive must-have guide before and after the book deal. She has navigated the highs and lows of a 15-year career and is here to share the wealth of knowledge with us, including some much-needed survival strategies for those of us currently battling through the 800-word-a-day writing challenge that we're undertaking. But we're also here to celebrate the release of a brilliant new novel, Alan Opts Out, hailed as the Eat the Rich farce we need, praised by authors like Elizabeth Gilbert. It's a masterclass in blending biting wit with genuine heart. So please give a massive WCCS welcome to the incredible Courtney Maum. Hello, Courtney. How are you doing?
Well, we're great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm debuting for the first time in the UK. I guess the sixth time is the charm. They didn't want any of my first 5 books, but yeah. And now I'm realizing I put up on my husband's staircase. I'm in the backyard in his shed, the US cover, but whoops.
And it just says Opts Out because you can't see the Alan on top.
Staircase, so I'm doing a really good job. This is excellent marketing. Clearly publishing expert right here.
Yeah.
It is Friday, right? So
absolutely. It certainly is Friday, so enjoy yourselves.
Well done.
Yeah, of course. On this show, we definitely do enjoy ourselves on a Friday. Yeah, like I said, over 400 interviews, and it's always great to get someone in at every stage of their writing career, and someone who can coach and advise writers as well is perfect for our show. So really looking forward to the chat. But like you said, it's a tricky route, isn't it? 5 books and, not getting noticed in certain areas. It's one of those things where a lot of people might feel they get that one book and they've done it, and then suddenly they hit a marketing wall. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
But it's a long journey, right?
Oh, it's an extremely long journey. And, the journey certainly doesn't start with 2014, which is when I had my first book published, right? It, I think, probably started in 1978 when I was born.
Yeah.
I mean, for most writers, it's a lifelong journey. It's the journey of learning to read. And by learning to read, I don't mean you learn how to read words on a page, which of course is its own important activity, but learning to find what you actually like to read, which might not be what you're given to read by your school or family or friends, and then learning to live so you have something to write about, but learning not to live too much so you're not, a wreck physically and can actually write, learning to time manage. The writing itself is this really privileged, magical part. But honestly, I've been doing this long enough to say that the secret to success is time management.
Yeah.
And just perseverance and determination. And you got to have some friends. You do have to. Things started changing for me when I started making friends. I mean, I'm an extroverted person, but I didn't study creative writing or even English in college. I studied comparative literature and French and French translation. So I didn't really have writing friends until my late 20s, So yeah, it is a long journey, but thankfully, I always say, it's not figure skating or I don't know, something super athletic where your body maybe only has a certain amount of time before you can't function at peak, levels. At least with writing, in theory, unless we fall ill or something, the more we live, the more we learn, the better we get, the more stories we have to tell. And I think that's a great privilege.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned something quite interesting there, and it's something that I've not gone down the academic route in terms of the writing academic, but the life experience for me plays really well into my writing. Is that something that you have experience with based on what you said? And how important do you think that is for someone who might think they can become a writer purely by going down and gaining courses in writing?
Yeah, well, I can't speak to what it's like to be formally instructed in writing, because I mean, I didn't pursue it at a higher level. I went to a very good high school, we call it high school, where my writing was really encouraged. And I will say I started publishing from a young age in high school, maybe 16 years old. I started publishing. Oh, hello. Welcome. Should I just keep on going?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Great. Well, nice to see you. I had, one of those amazing teachers, right, who really goes to bat for you. Hello, Mr. Schwartz. He'll always be Mr. Schwartz to me, but his name is Jeff. And, I was probably 15, 16, somewhere around there. He started pointing out these magazines will accept work from young adults. This writing workshop will accept young adults, so on and so forth. And then by the time I got to college, I was a reporter, basically. I was working for local magazines and local newspapers as a reporter, and I continued to do that. I worked for Maxim magazine in the 90s, when it was actually like a super cool place to be. I wrote all the Victoria's Secret catalogs for a while. I had a lot of interesting writing jobs. So again, like, my education, other than having a very good education, I was lucky enough to have a very fine education and was shown a lot of really good books. I probably am the writer I am today because of my copywriting experience and just being given a deadline that was a firm deadline. There was no, telling Pfizer the dog ate my homework, or like, these were really firm deadlines with a lot of money riding on the deadline. And you had to work really quickly, and you had to work in a lot of different voices. So I've brought all of that kind of marketing and branding, the decades of those experiences, into the way I approach not necessarily my writing, but the marketing of the writing. And then in terms of just the craft and instruction, again, I never went to an MFA program, but I attended a couple summer workshops as a younger person before I started publishing. And eventually, when I started publishing, I was invited to teach at these workshops, and they have amazing instructors. And I mean, some of these teachers are just so great, but I don't like the workshop the way it's taught, at least in the US. And in fact, now I run my own workshops, and Turning Points is the name of the one I run. It's in New Mexico. And I consciously organized it as the opposite to the way that American writing workshops are run. How are American writing workshops run? Generally, they're quite expensive to attend. I'm sort of talking here not about the MFA, but we have these summer programs you can go to. They're generally a week long. They're very, very expensive to attend. You sign up hoping, well, first of all, you have to apply. They're very competitive. And if you get in, you do select one specific teacher that you want to work with. So I'll just, by way of example, when I was accepted to the Tin House Writing Workshop, I think it was 2010 or 11, I wanted to work with Dorothy Allison, Bastards out of South Carolina, just incredible writer who's since passed. And I got into her class. I was so excited. I'd never been to a writing workshop. This was the first one. And I thought, oh my God, she might not like my work because she writes about lower class concerns, and somewhat like Elizabeth Day. In the UK, I write about privilege and power and the corruption of the upper class. But I thought, that's okay, I can take it. And I was really shocked to see that, in fact, or to learn that pretty much across the board, writing workshops in the US are run by giving the floor to all the other students who generally haven't published, and so you bring your 15 pages, you have 15 pages to share. Most people select their best work. And then you don't have very long, maybe 20 minutes, maybe a half hour. And the students are invited to comment on it. And you're told, like, say something nice first. Everyone say something nice and then dig in. So number one, you're getting feedback from people who have their own agenda and haven't published, so that's sort of its own thing. And also, probably you gave your 15 best pages that you loved, and now you have all these notes from 12 people about what they wanted changed and how much they hated it. And even when it goes well, you know, you're getting people are generally polite, but like still. And then what? You have 15 pages of it could be a 300-page something. And I remember coming home from that and going, oh dear God, like what just happened? And what am I supposed to do? And so now I pretty much teach only for myself under my own name, and, you know, just basically tell people like, and I do all this legwork in the lead up, like, you know, I'll start in June for October. And I have all the students fill out these forms that show where they want feedback, where they're open for feedback, and where you just can't shut your mouth. For example, if you have a book that's written entirely from the point of view of a bullfrog, it's called the no-fly zone, and they might type into the no-fly zone, do not talk to me about my POV. It's a bullfrog. It's going to stay a bullfrog. But I think I need help describing landscapes. And so months before we even arrive, you just know that like the bullfrog thing like doesn't do it for me, but they love it. And we're just not going to talk about it. You know, leave them alone. And then what I do in the States is the workshop leader generally silences the writer. I silence all the students except for the writer, not for the whole week. You have over an hour in my workshop, but in the beginning, I silence everyone else so that people have to listen to the author and also read the room. Like, do they seem fragile? What kind of mood are they in? And so everyone, by the time they speak, they've hopefully really thought through what they're going to say. So, yeah, I it's in terms of the formal instruction, I kind of DIY'd it and then just started teaching what truly worked for me in terms of revision practices and leveling up with your query letters and things like that. And, you know, still learning as we go.
It's amazing what you've done. And I looked on your website about these retreats that you have. They look amazing. I would absolutely.
They're nice. I mean, they're really they're in luxury destinations for the moment. They're very nice. Yes.
The question I've got is, I'd like to see
one in Spain. My agent would kill me if I did. I have one coming up in Spain in May of 2027 in southern Spain. So
yeah,
come.
I'd love to. The question I've got is, seeing people come away from we kind of mentioned it earlier about their busy lives and schedule and timing and every importance of that. But then when they come to these retreats, do they mention a different side to themselves, having the time to take away everything, their work, their life, their hobbies, everything, and just move away and concentrate fully on their writing?
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't always go well. By this time, I've been doing this long enough because I also do one-on-one consulting with people. I can generally kind of suss out the person who says that they're dying to have time on their writing, but actually haven't built up the accountability skills to actually write, and also a certain kind of procrastinator who pivots all the time. Like, oh my God, I thought it was a memoir. I wrote it as a memoir. It's actually a novel. I thought it was a novel. It's a screenplay. And you know what? Like, that's okay to a certain point. These shape-shifting, regrouping, that's all right. Like, we're learning, we're playing, we're experimenting, but it can get to a point where it becomes a bit pathologic and the person can never finish anything. So generally, I do accept people like that. But what I do is, before these workshops, I do one-on-one coaching before we even arrive. And I'll be honest with the person and say, like, I think I'm seeing a pattern. Is this true? Just so there's not some sort of breakdown. Like, when we get there, because it's on this ranch in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico. So if I don't prep people kind of emotionally correctly, if they want to leave, it's a little complicated. They need to get on a horse and bring a lot of water.
There's a question from Jane Valentine and she says, curious how the workshop is run in the UK. Is there one in the UK?
I don't have one in the UK right now. I just launched this one in Spain that I've never done before. So for the moment, I don't have anything in the UK. We'll see how the Spain one. I joined a company called Uptrek because I did not want to take care of the liability. To take people possibly out of their own countries, especially as an American. I'm like, I'll put that liability on someone else. So working with the company Uptrek to put this together, but they do have offerings in the UK. So if this one fills up, it has to fill up. If it fills up, then yeah,
you never know. Watch this space. Chris, hello, how are you doing? We can't hear you. Check your mic input. The joys of live streaming, everybody. Like I said, this is our first time using Substack Live. We've been on YouTube Live for the past 5 years. It's a new venture. Can we now hear you, Chris? No. Check
Chris
the audio.
is with us in spirit.
Yeah, he is. He's there just looking glorious. Anya says Spain would be a great place for a retreat.
Yeah.
Laurie says started reading Alan Opts Out today. Loving it.
Oh, good. Well done.
Yeah.
Tell everyone. Unless you start to not like it, then
he's looking very pensive right now. With his bushy beard. Every week he's got a bigger beard. No, keep working on it, Chris, and just make some noises. If we hear you, we'll give you a shout. Still there. So Courtney, our show normally goes in a routine, but we kind of thrown out the window.
Again, listen, I'm an American in 2026, so you think routine is part of my life?
Yeah, what I was going to say is we like to rewind the tape a little bit and find out. You mentioned about when writing, going back to that's when it really started. So do you remember at the point it actually started where you thought, writing is something I want to do?
Yes, 100%. I was in second grade, so that would make me about 7 years old. And we had a teacher in English, Mrs. Vici Domini. Unfortunately, she has also passed. But Mrs. Vici Domini said, this week, kids, we're going to learn how to create our own books. And she'd brought all this wallpaper. It was from Laura Ashley. It was very fancy, and cardboard and staplers. And she showed us everyone will have about 12 pages and we'll staple it. We make a book and everything. And you can put your own illustrations in it. And she said, it was a Monday and we should bring in our finished book by Friday. So I wish they're over in my house, not my husband's shed, but I have show and tell. I did not bring in one book. I brought in 5, and they had on the back, I'd done an about the author section. And I was 7, so I didn't have that much to report. I think I put Courtney's 7, and for Christmas, she wants a pony, right? And that was it for me. The coming up with the stories and also thinking about okay, well, what would fit in 12 pages? The word count, and then doing the illustrations and coming up with a book cover and sharing it with my colleagues, my 7-year-old colleagues, and of course overachieving and doing 5 instead of 1. And I got really good feedback. My grandmother shared the books with everyone, and I was like, oh, this is celebrity. This is and but it really was, all jokes aside, the most rewarding thing I had ever experienced up until that point. It just felt like joy. And also I loved doing it. It seemed that I was good at it. So from that point on, I just started writing like a mad woman. I remember I would go into my dad's study, and he had a brother electronic typewriter, which was all the rage back then in the 80s. And I was just doing knockoff Shel Silverstein poetry and knocking off Roald Dahl and all these things, but still trying to find my voice. And it just, it went on from there. But it's thanks to Mrs. Vici Domini, and that original exercise was totally the catalyst. Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, good teachers, if there's any good teachers watching this live or later, or if you're a teacher, thank you. Thank you.
Well, both of us, me and Chris, are actually.
Oh, you are? Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you for your service.
No, but it is amazing how that sort of encouragement in your formative years can be really encouraging to make you want to pursue a career that clearly is
really impactful, especially if you're taking seriously the artistic work of a young child. My family didn't, like, my grandmother really supported me, but my family, they're not readers at all. And while of course they're proud of me, like they don't get it. It doesn't really make sense to them. My mom, especially, my dad just passed away sadly, but he was not a reader, but he was very proud of me. My mom reads like Daniel Steele, so she says my stuff's too hard to read. Oops, hold on, I lost you. Hold on one second. But my grandmother was a reader, but still, kind of John Grisham and stuff. And so it was my teachers who really, really supported me, made me feel normal. Like, because some classmates of mine, like, I was like so excited on Fridays to go home and write, which is, and Saturdays I was up early writing and like going away to these weird weekend camps to write. And it was weird. But my teachers never made me feel strange. They made me feel talented and that I had potential and that it was exciting and that I could do this. So yeah, thank you for being teachers.
Yeah. So what point did you go from that really enthusiastic, sort of passionate child to I'm going to get my first book actually in the light of the publishing world?
So this is a fun story. As I mentioned, I was a comp lit major and minored in French translation. So as one does, the week I graduated college, I went with my French teaching assistant, who I was dating, to Paris to live with no visa,
Wow.
Yeah. And I got to know him a little better once we were in Paris, and I decided perhaps we should not be together. So I didn't leave Paris. I had to find a way to get a visa, which ended up, apparently my God-given talent is being able to sell Corona, the beer, to French people. At the time I was blonde. So I got a visa to be a party promoter for Corona.
Wow.
Yes, I drove a Corona mobile all around Paris for 3 years. It was broken into all the time because people assumed that, not that there was beer in it, but they wanted glasses, beer glasses. And part of my job was to tell people you don't drink, you drink it out of the bottle. Anyway, I mention this because it involves alcohol. So my work was mostly at night. So I was supposed to be like generating new accounts and shit, right? But during the day I was working on a novel. And I think when I was 23, I got my first agent. And of course, none of this appeared as a red flag to me then. It was a good agency. He mostly did mysteries, and I had like a very literary dramedy, like drama, romantic comedy, which I was just like, didn't occur to me that I should have an agent who specialized in my genre, but whatever. Yeah. Another green flag then, red flag now, was that he was like, this manuscript is brilliant. I'm going to go straight out with it on submission. Now I have an agent who, I swear to God, it's 2 years, I think it's done. And 2 years later, she finally will send something on submission. She makes me revise things within an inch of my life. But at the time I was like, yeah, I'm a genius. Natch. Like, of course he's going to send this out right away. And then wildly, very, very quickly, we had an editor interested at Doubleday, which at the time was a really, renowned publisher. And oh God, I had a flip phone. I had a Nokia flip phone, and she was calling me all summer. I didn't realize you're supposed to have a contract. I was just like, okay, if this woman's calling me long distance on my flip phone and we're revising the book together, like it's coming out with Doubleday. And this was 2005 by that point, and I was headed back to the States to get married to a new French person back home. And I was in New York City, and I went into the Apple store, which at the time was like really hot and new. And that's the cool thing, was to go in Soho, our Soho in New York City, and check your email on these like cool computers. That was like the thing, right? And so I was like, let me check, if the money's come in yet, or I don't know what I thought. Because I was supposed to meet this woman That's why I was in New York. A couple days later, I was supposed to meet her with my agent. And instead, my Hotmail, I had an email from her saying, like, I'm so sorry. I have changed my mind. And it so happened she quit her job that week.
Ooh.
So my agent was like, obviously, this is a bummer, but she was like one of the first people that read it. Like, this is not a problem. We're going to have so many offers. Well, many cycles later, he was like, could you write like a sexy memoir about your time in Paris? Because like I can't sell this book. And so that was in 2005, and that book, which ended up coming out as I'm Having So Much Fun Here Without You, did not come out until my third agent and 10 years later.
Wow.
10 years. Of course, I moved on to do other things. So like I was ready at 23, ready. Like books coming out, $1 million book deal, I don't know what. And instead, that ushered in, 9 years of absolute hustle. I started to make friends, do a lot of reading, spoken word series. Like I started doing a lot of interesting kind of almost like stand-up, writing a lot of weird short stories, finding my voice in humor. Got another agent for a different book. Just realized the agent had some mental problem. I don't know, just we weren't getting along, and honestly, by the time I got a book deal, and isn't this like so classic? By the time that book deal was sort of coming to find me, I truly was like, I can live without this traditionally published book. Actually, I'm having a great time doing what I'm doing. I had a chapbook out. I was doing like guerrilla type writing. I was having a blast, and I was working in marketing. This is worth saying. I was working in marketing and advertising and corporate naming, like naming beauty products and makeup. I was having a blast. I was making money. I was supporting myself. It was fine. And then this new agent came into my life, and she was like, I want to resuscitate that book, and things change. But just like with in love, when you break up with someone and you're like, that's it for me, like I just don't even care about having a long time, that's when you meet your like spouse or whatever, right? So I thought things were gonna rocket ship for me at age 23, and I mean, frankly, my career really started to change when I published Before and After the Book Deal, which was my fourth book, and was one that many gatekeepers told me not to publish. This is a huge mistake. There'll be so much blowback. Who do you think you are? Writing a guidebook to the industry, and then it ended up kind of making my career in many ways. So it's a long journey going back to the opening of our.
Why do you think that they had such objections to that sort of book?
So first of all, their objections to the book clarified how badly the book needed to exist.
Yeah.
Because the agents and editors were like, authors know all this stuff. Like, nobody needs this book. And I was like, what are you talking about? We all dream of getting a book deal. Like in the States, at least, you need an agent first and then the book deal. So we dream of getting an agent, and then we dream of getting the book deal. And there's all these workshops, there's craft books out the wazoo to help you perfect your writing. You can subscribe to people's, at the time, maybe not newsletters, but YouTube channel. But then you get the book deal, and everyone shuts up because now it's taboo and it's money, and we don't talk about that. And, like good Anglo-Saxons, we don't talk about that. And they also just weren't listening to what I was pitching. They were hearing that as a white lady, who had success with her first book, I was going to write a memoir about my publishing experience, when in fact I was trying to make them understand that I was just going to be like a tour guide, bringing them through the different bringing the reader through the different possibilities, like a real estate agent. Like, in this room, you get $1 million book deal. In this room, no one buys your book and the publisher refuses to work with you again. In this room, you're doing a reading at Barnes & Noble while someone's making 900 cappuccinos and you can't hear yourself talk. And they just didn't effectively. I kind of just had to write the whole book, conduct all the interviews just like unpaid without an advance. And once certain people started contributing like Tony Doerr, who wrote like all the light we cannot see. By the way, it was his anecdote, like giving a talk in Barnes and Noble, and finally he was like, "Can you stop making the cappuccino?" But once people started, like Roxane Gay started stepping up, they're like, "Oh, actually, all the authors are like dying to talk about how hard it is, and even when it's good, sometimes it's harder, you know." But yeah, so they really didn't read the room. They just did not understand how opaque the industry and every step of the publishing process is for authors, you know?
Yeah. It's amazing what you did, and even against the sort of negative initial feedback, because people do need to know that stuff, and you know it's hard.
Literally need to know it, because you can get into a lot of PR mishaps. Like, I mean, I remember a moment when I got the book deal, with Sally Kim, who's been my editor for most of my novels, and she in the United States, she's doing Alan Opts Out as Jocasta Hamilton in the UK. But I remember when it was time to go meet my US team for the first time, you know, my agent was like, "Oh, they want to take you to lunch," and I remember emailing like, I'm not that kind of gal. They don't need to wine and dine me. We can get right down to work. And thank God I didn't write the whole team. My agent called me right away and was like, no, what are you doing? Settle down. Like, get to know your publisher, you know, stop this like corporate, whatever you're doing. And thank God. I mean, I really credit my agent, Rebecca, because she's the kind of agent who doesn't sit by kind of gnawing her fingernails if an author's behaving poorly. She calls. You know, there's been some times I've done an Instagram post and right away my phone rings and I'm like, oh God, what did I do? Sometimes she's like, I thought that was great. I wanted you to know, you know, but she educated me early on. And she herself is one of the reasons I felt somewhat prepared to write this book, because I remember her calling me when I went on book tour. And for my first book, I had an old school tour where the publisher paid for everything. I had a driver. I was like, what is this? It was awesome. And I think I was on night 3 and she called me and she said, you know, you're sending thank you notes every day, right? And I said, huh? So every day you're sending thank you notes to the booksellers that hosted you the night before, correct? And I was like, I guess I'll do that now. Like, I mean, I don't have stamps on me, shit. And so that was the kind of like hyper micro detail that I was able to put in the book, saying, hey, if you're lucky enough to go on tour, or even if you're putting your own tour together, buy stamps ahead of time, buy a postcard or a gift card at the actual bookshop. So you're buying something and then you send it a couple days later. You know, you don't have to send flowers, these little gestures that I didn't come into the world classy. I had to be schooled on everything that I didn't know. And my goodness, like, yeah. And I don't know, we are not civilized people, actually. So those little details around etiquette, I think people have really appreciated.
Absolutely. Do we have a Chris Hooley? No, we still don't. Try your phone. There's a couple of comments. Sammy Downing says, I love the realization that you had about being okay, not having a traditional publishing book deal. Oh, he's going to try his phone. Halo says that kind of transparency is much appreciated. And Anya said all of these details are super, super useful.
Oh, good. Well, thanks.
So, yeah. One of the questions that I was trying to think of, and it was when you were talking about that sort of long duration between getting your book first book published. So what mindset were you in, and what advice might you have for someone who's kind of feeling like they want to get there, but they're not getting there yet?
Okay. So per usual, I have a couple thoughts, but for me, what really helped mend my heart after that first book fell apart was I self-published. Not the book in question, but I had been I had enough short stories for a collection, and I knew I'm better at writing novels than I am. I do pretty funky, like very short fiction, but my longer short stories, they're not as strong, you know, as some of the other things I do. And I recognize that, like, this isn't going to get me a book deal. And I didn't want to launch my career with a short story collection anyway, because it wasn't a medium that I thought I would continue in. But I was like, I am not only ready, I need to see a book of mine in the hands of the people I love. I thought that was going to happen 2 years down the road, because I thought I was getting this book deal, and I kind of can't like go on unless that happens. And so I looked around, and I didn't want to do it via Amazon. Like, I wanted to work with actual people. And I found a place that still exists. It's called the Troy Bookmakers in Troy, New York, so in the United States. And they, got me a copy editor. I took it all very seriously. I paid a photographer to use one of his photos on the front. It was called Small Things in Big Places. And I did something with Troy Bookmakers. I said, let's do 150 copies, and I will never print another one, like, ever. So if it sells through, like, that's it. And, eventually we did sell through, and then I did, that's it. You can't find this book. But 150 copies, that means that I was going to people's houses for dinner, and it was out on the coffee table. I saw it on friends' bedstands, and that did it. That was all right. That started to heal my heart. It bought me like 3 or 4 years, frankly, and not having to bother with anyone saying no, because I didn't tell my agent about this. I did it all myself. So if you keep getting freaking no's, I wouldn't recommend immediately self-publishing and the whole project unless you're really ready to, because if you self-publish the project in question, it can, at least in the United States, preclude you from getting a traditional book deal because it is already self-published. But you can do a spin-off, you can do a manifesto that the book is something, but you might, like, the way I put it is, if everyone's saying no to you, find a way to say yes to yourself. So it could be turning your memoir that's just not getting any traction into a one woman, one man, one person show, going to like some clubs to do stand-up comedy and trying out some of the essays in your memoir. Also, especially for people in nonfiction and memoir, trying stuff out on social media. We all moan and groan. Well, maybe not everyone, but some people moan and groan about social media. But these places, Instagram, Reels, and Book Talk, and YouTube, they're actually really great ways for memoirists and nonfiction writers to try out material. And the thing is everyone wants a platform. I imagine it's the same in the UK. So everyone's saying no, they don't see a path to market for your book. Well, go do stuff on the side that's going to make them come groveling back to you. There's just a lot. I mean, we're obviously like living in the digital era comes with a lot of freaking problems, and many of us just want to go backward. But for now, we have a lot of tools at our disposal to storytell for free or for very, very low cost, and to reach a whole world of people via social media. And so try to think positively about that, and not just think, oh God, this Word document in my computer, these agents or editors don't want it, and thus I'm meaningless. The idea is meaningless. I think of like Jeanette McCurdy. Of course, she was, kind of a celebrity or minor celebrity. She was an actress, but the book that did so well in the United States, I'm Glad My Mom Died, that actually started off as a comedy show. It was a one-woman show. She was doing this one-woman show, and it was getting kind of buzzy, and then she got the book deal. The book did not come first, and that's like a high touch example because she had a platform, but there's a lot of examples like that. So no means no in the channel, of the person that emailed you. They said no. That doesn't mean no, never for the whole project. It really doesn't. It doesn't have to. It's up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. So one little bit more of advice before we talk about your book, and that would be on the writing challenge that we're currently undertaking, which is like an 800 word a day writing challenge. And we're a couple of weeks in. Some of us are doing really well. Some of us are slipping behind slightly. So what advice would you be able to perhaps give to help those who are maybe slipping back?
Well, the word count goal is an interesting thing, right? Because a lot of people like that because you meet it or you don't. It keeps you writing. I don't want to mess up your challenge, but I would say to people who are struggling, what I do in terms of writing is I work on content goals.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, I'll say like, okay, I don't work on the weekends, but Monday, that opening to chapter 3 is just awful. It's so lame. Let me fix the opening. The first 2 pages are garbage. Fix them, make them better. You might say to yourself, okay, so it's not so much about like putting 800 new words on the page, but maybe revising 800 words. Do you have a section of the manuscript that has incredibly stale dialogue, or you've just phoned in a section and like, oh, crap writing? Revise that, because that counts too. I'm not someone, I generate new material on Monday and Tuesday mornings, and that's after resting on the weekend. And then I'm exhausted. Frankly, I'm exhausted. Obviously I have a lot of other things to do. I teach and email. I'm a mom. I have a freaking horse who's a head case, yada, yada. I have a husband, cats. But Wednesday, I don't even do anything regarding the new manuscript. Thursday, I tinker and revise. The only days where I'm generating new words and material are Monday and Tuesday mornings. So it is also okay. 800 words could be, write a query letter, write a summary of your project for an agent. Work on the title. Your title is not so good. Make it better. Especially in nonfiction, give it a better subtitle. That 800 words is really a call to the desk or where it is you're writing, and also a call to dedication to the manuscripts. If you're getting 800 words, new words on the page, that's awesome. That's awesome. They also might not be great, so it's okay, especially if you're tired. It's not okay to take that time that you're supposed to be dedicated to your writing and like text people or mope around. And, I always tell people, like, if you had a dental appointment, you would go to the dental appointment. So carve out, if you're going to do 800 words, it's not enough to be like, I'll do 800 words a day. You have to look at your week. I have a class on this through my website. It's called Time Management for People with No Time. You don't just wake up and like, wow, 800 words. You have to plan out your week and make sure that you have time every day to write. So you're going to be writing, turn off your phone, silence the distractions, and then get to it. But again, if for some reason it can't be 800 new words, revise the prologue, work on the ending, jump ahead in time. You sketch out a character that you haven't brought in yet. Write blurbs for yourself. I don't know if they do blurbs, and write endorsements by other authors. Interview yourself. Like, start engaging with the material in a way that is generative. I'm very big. I have a lot of ideas around like stuff.
I'm very, very guilty of that person being, I've got this to do today. I'll have this time free roughly to do whatever, and I'll fit it in somewhere there. I'm definitely that.
But this is just not how it happened, right? Like, I really do like to draw parallels to professional athletes, right? Like, what makes a professional athlete an athlete? Absolute militaristic dedication to the thing. They're practicing at the same time every day. Same thing with professional, classical musicians. We have to have the same rigor, not all the time, but like you this is really hard. It's harder than people think. And you can't write all day, every day. That's elitist. That's ridiculous. It's absurd. But what you must do, I believe, is look at each week before the week lands and understand where and when you're writing, and then carve out those times and protect them with every ounce you have. And then you must write or, engage with the manuscript in some way in those slots.
Absolutely. All right, we've got about 15 minutes left, and we've got plenty of people watching the live. So please have a think about what questions you'd love to ask Courtney, and then get them ready to put in the chat and hit send. And in between that, we'll ask a couple of questions. So first of all, Alan opts out. Could you please pitch us to those who are watching who might not have heard about it yet?
Yeah, I have to get the book. Hold on, because I have to do this kind of thing. It's so far away. Okay.
And in the meantime, my cat is trying to attack me through the window. He's not. She's not.
So dumb over here. I brought the US version, but anyway, here's Alan. Alan opts out. So it's about an advertising executive. Something goes really wrong on his account bid for US dairy because no one's drinking cow's milk anymore. So this is like the big account that everyone wants. Something goes so wrong, it causes him to reevaluate his life's work and capitalism, and he decides to try to opt out of capitalism, move into his daughter's playhouse in the backyard, and live off the land in this tiny piece of yard. So that's fine, but the problem is he has not told his wife. He just sort of does it. And he's the only wage earner. And she also has she has ambitions, social ambitions, because they've just moved to this ritzy new town. And the last thing she needs is her husband like pooping in the yard, right? So that's the setup.
It's a very interesting concept, and it's obviously plays into a lot of sort of, I'd say, realistic sort of challenges in the world right now, looking at sort of how people live and farming life and all sorts of things. So what was the inspiration for you to start this story?
I mean, I think it was primarily during the pandemic when I learned that I was going to have to homeschool my child, which is not, like I earn money to pay taxes to send her to school. I'm not meant to homeschool anyone. I mean, I can't even bake with my kid. I have no patience. So that was a horrible realization. It really scared me quite a lot. And I actually went into the backyard and just lay down in the grass and kind of stared at the sky and thought, like, I want to opt out of this. I want to say no.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. How do I opt? And I started thinking, what if I just never went back into the main house? So that, I did not abandon my child. At some point I went back to the house. I had to learn how to do the stuff online. I have a husband, but he's French. So, the American learning system, especially for English and things, he stepped in for science and math, but I needed to be there for certain subjects. So that was fine. We went on and self-medicated with wine and whatever, watching a lot of Alone. But curiously enough, our next door neighbor, who is also my daughter's, his daughter is my daughter's best friend. We have a little bridge, actually. It's like right over here. And they run back and forth to each other's houses. And our friend Adam kind of did opt out. He kind of lost it and started wearing no shoes. He went everywhere with this basket. He started wearing these ponchos and refused to use his phone. He wouldn't answer texts. He started spending a lot of time in the kids' treehouse, overnight. His marriage went kaput, and he knows this, so I'm speaking about it freely. He sort of took what I was already feeling and then gave me a physical manifestation of what it could look like. And then, for funsies, I just ratcheted up the tax bracket back to what what I saw in my youth, which was like this ridiculous overconsumption, glitzy land of Greenwich, Connecticut, which is a bedroom town of Wall Street. It was very bright lights, big city in the 80s. So I have a nice normal life, and it's just not, the stakes aren't as interesting. So we went up, not to the 1%, but I don't know, 6%. Yeah.
Brilliant. It sounds fantastic. And it's obviously got a experience to go into that, which will just enforce the sort of realism of it. What kind of reaction we had a reaction earlier in the comments, but what kind of reactions have you had, and are they kind of the reactions you hope to have?
Yes, thank goodness. Yes. I mean, this is a fun book. This is a funny book. It's actually uplifting. It's not one of these eat the rich things where everyone hates each other and is really mean to each other, nor is everyone drinking a ton. There's a lot of alcoholism in my family that's causing many problems right now. So it's actually quite cautious to not have not have substance abuse in this book, which is rare in stories about the upper class. But it's thank goodness people seem to really be liking it. They seem to like that it's a damn good time. Yeah. It's an entertaining book. They like that. Well, some people don't like. some people do, that there's a little bit of magical realism in the realism. I think I'm starting to get early feelings that the people of Greenwich, Connecticut, where I was born and raised, are offended. So then I know I've done it right.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I don't know what to tell you. It's not my fault that people had, like, when I was growing up, the dinner party scene was really competitive, and there was, again, I was kid, but I was brought to these things, and there was a woman in our gated community who flooded her own first floor and had it professionally frozen so that the kids could ice skate around, like,
what?
the house. Yeah. And at another party, someone brought giraffes. I mean, I saw crazy shit. So
I'm speechless. I mean,
again, I mean, you don't want to be written about. Don't do things like that. I don't know what to tell you. No, so people, so far so good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
Just keep the book tours not local.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm going there. But it's again, like, it's a kind book. Ultimately, it's a kind book. There's only one, like, real villain, and she's not based on anyone. She goes around the town. There's an HOA. I don't know if you have those in the UK. Yeah. Like, she goes around to all the neighbors with a yoga block and holds the yoga block up against their grass to show them, like, their grass can only get to a certain height, and if it's past it, she takes pictures, and, like, this kind of thing exists here. People are really competitive about their lawns.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, talking about kind of your local area, and a question I love to ask normally is, like, do you have a connection between your readers or fellow authors in your local area? So I'm guessing there is a sort of reader connection there, but what about authors in your local community?
Yeah, I live in a region called Litchfield County, which is in northwestern Connecticut. We're truly in the most northwestern corner. So from where I sit right now, I could literally throw a frisbee at Massachusetts, which is a different state. And if I take my car 15 minutes, I hit the state of New York. So it's like a tri-state kind of thing. And there are quite a good amount of wonderful writers, not directly here in town necessarily, but close. So, like, yesterday I was having a Zoom call with Dani Shapiro, who's extremely well-known and beloved in our country. She wrote Inheritance, which I think did very well in the UK as well. And she's not too far from me. So, yeah, and then during the pandemic, all of my closest writer friends moved from Brooklyn, New York to Kingston, New York. And that's only an hour and 20 minutes from me, and it's great fun. It's like a manageable sized city on the Hudson River. It's really beautiful, actually. Yes. They have oysters. I love going there. Yeah, so I have a nice, again, not like I couldn't bicycle right now to a writer's friend's house, but I could bicycle to the marketing director behind my first book. Wow. He's here, so that's fun. And also we have a town lake, and the incredible press, iconic press, New Directions, was founded in my town here.
Wow.
Ezra Pound used to swim in the lake when he'd come out. So my town has a very, very literary heritage. Pat Conroy, who wrote Prince of Tides, used to spend weekends here. So the spirits are here. It's a beautiful place to write. I'm looking right now. I live in the mountains.
Nice.
Mountains. I guess it's not the Alps. Hillocks? I don't know what they are.
Yeah, a few hills. Brilliant. Yeah, I've got a couple of a little bit curveball questions, I suppose. And right. if you don't know an answer instantly, just pass them, and then we'll get a couple that have come into the chat. So if you have got questions, now is the time to send them in. And just going back to the book, Laurie says it really is great, and she's hooked already. So
Laurie, love you. Thanks, Laurie.
Yes. So we'll find out where we can get that from very soon. So here's some curveballs for you. If you could take any character from the world of fiction, whether that be a TV show, a movie, or a novel, and say go out for the day with that character, what character would you take out and why?
Oh God, what a good question.
On the spot. Do apologize.
Oh gosh, there's just so many books. You know what? Maybe I'd take out Bella from Twilight and be like, girl, get some steak in you. Like, you are anemic. You're making such bad decisions. You need some sun.
Yeah.
Here's some Prosecco. Like, take a load off. Don't let this guy bite you. You know, I think I'd take her out and really try to get some food into Bella Swan. Yeah, that's what first comes to mind.
That was a brilliant answer. Very good. I'd love to see that happen. And the next one, if you could change the ending to anything, again, opening up to TV, movies, or novels, what ending would you change? Why?
Okay, so Rumaan Alam's Leave the World Behind. He's a friend. I'd like to write an extra chapter there. Personally, I'm not like this. Like, my book doesn't necessarily tie up all the bows, but I needed a couple more bows tied up with that book. Yeah. Okay.
Amazing. So, a couple of questions coming in. Even one from our co-host Chris Hooley, who clearly couldn't get his mic working.
Voiceless Chris.
Yeah, but he is commenting. So,
you know, again, when the world says no, you find a way to say yes to yourself. So thank you, Chris, for demonstrating the verve and dedication that us writers need.
And the important part of that is the message that you said earlier. Denied now, he will be back. So there you go. So Sammy says, do you like marketing books? Oh, sorry. Do you feel like marketing books harms your creativity, or do you feel like the act of creation is inhibited by trying to make a career out of writing?
I mean, this is a really essential question. It's sort of like what I've designed my career around in terms of speaking at this point. I am very, very fortunate, I think, in that I was educated in marketing and advertising. So for me, it is not an uncomfortable pivot. That being said, I do not see these things as the same, even though many, at least in America, authors are expected to do a lot of their own marketing and social media and, you know, even event management. They're completely different realms. They're completely different tasks. So, you know, I have Alan Opts Out is it's coming out in 2 weeks. 2.5 in the UK, June 4th. June 4th in the UK, June 2nd in the States. But so remember I said Monday and Tuesday mornings, I'm doing writing. Wednesday mornings, I'll start getting into some marketing stuff. I can't avoid it right now because the book's coming out so soon. But in a perfect week where I don't have a book coming out, those activities won't even take place on the same day. I really space them out, and it's almost like I go into split identities. So again, I am comfortable doing it because I know how to do it. I used to be paid to do this by like major branding agency. This is not hard for me. Like, you know, do you like the description on the inside of the book? I wrote it. Do you like the marketing copy? I wrote it. You know, it's just easy for me. Again, Victoria's Secret, I had to write 1,000 catalogs a day, but I'm not even being conceited. For most people, this is like excruciating. Even coming up with a 1-sentence description of their own book is an excruciating task, much less writing the 2-paragraph summary that's going to be on the back of the book. So it's true, I think, that for a lot of people who are either realizing that they have to get at some marketing skills to help give their project a leg up, whether it's writing the query letter to the agent or talking about it eloquently in public. It's really hard when someone says, oh, well, you write anything I've heard of? What do you write? And you're like, what a twat. Right? And you get, so those are skills, and it's not, no one should ever feel ashamed if they're not good at it. Like my husband, who's a filmmaker, is a beautiful filmmaker. He writes gorgeous stories. It will take him 5 days to write a pitch letter for his project. So I do them for him. I mean, he can he can bring him to tears how hard it is, you know. So nobody should feel like, oh, this chick goes back and forth and it's no problem. That is thanks to my 25 years in marketing. It is not, you know, I wasn't born this way. It's the education that I have that's maybe some people don't. The good news is, if you resonate with anything that I'm saying, I teach all this stuff at my writing workshop. So in the morning, we might be all crafty and art witchy. the art monstery. And then in the afternoon, we'll do things like stand up and kind of improvise parties, and you have to talk to the person about your book. We do exercises like that. And I have a lot of classes on my website, courtneymaum.com, about trying to do platform in a way that's authentic to you and doesn't make you want to run into traffic. And I'm just very sensitive to the fact that for most people, it's nearly intolerable that they have to be both the creator and salesperson of their own work. For many people, it's so intolerable that it makes them drop everything. It should be mentioned that everyone gets like all up in arms about whether or not to hire a publicist. Frankly, your money is better spent, at least in the United States, on like a social media manager. It's just someone to help you with that stuff that might not come naturally, especially if someone's of like an advanced age. Like right now, for the last 3 months, I've been paying someone, I call her my young pup. And I'll send her videos of myself talking, and I'll be like, Alyssa, make it appear over a screen of a library. I just sent her one today, and the video, it was my idea. I said, I don't have time to learn how to make the library I'm talking about appear. She does it for me. She sends it back in like 30 seconds. She's amazing. Wow. Like, am I embarrassed that I'm paying her to do that? Absolutely not. It would be more embarrassing to be sitting here trying to figure out how to do it and like live stream my chin or something, So it's okay to pay people for help for the things. It's not okay. You should be writing your own work. And I'm like dead set against AI, but we can get into that on a different call. But it's 100% okay to pay people to do this like, help you with the marketing and database list management and all that.
Yeah, it is. We've got more questions to try and squeeze in, but you touched on something that's really important. It is something that's very apparent to a lot of people who, when they start writing, say, a self-published book, they don't realize the work needed after the book has come out.
You still have to connect it with people. You still have to find readers. You still do have to obviously you have to work even harder to market it. So publishing can be really rewarding, but it's very challenging. It's easier for people who have nonfiction book that ties into something they're offering through their business. Or whatever they specialize in as therapists working with children, and then they can distribute it at conventions and stuff. But it's hard work, regardless of how you do it.
It's tough. But
you just don't get paid anything when you self-publish something. Okay, so Carl Tame said, question at the end, did you wrap it up or make this book go further even when you know it's over? Does that make sense? Is this about like tying it up in bows?
Yeah, I guess so.
So I had a chapter that kind of explained everything that, happened to the family, sort of a epilogue. And it gave me the ick. And so I cut it. Because you spend a lot of time with this family in the book. And I thought the readers are intelligent. They have spent all this time with these people. It's up to them. If Alan continues to live in the yard, does his marriage survive? Like, I've sort of demonstrated enough that I think that the reader will know the family well enough at the end to decide for themselves,
Great, thank you for the question. And we'll finish off with Chris Hooley's question, which we'll see if you can get this one. How do you work? So his question is very how do you work Substack a legitimate question right now? Also, what's changing in the publishing world, and what's your biggest tip for writers right now? So there's a lot in there.
Hold on. So Substack, what's changing in publishing?
Yeah, what's changing in the publishing world, and what's your biggest tip for writers?
Well, the biggest tip for writers is to buy this book, frankly, because like literally everything's in it. But okay, so Substack. So I have a Substack newsletter. I was lucky in that I migrated from MailChimp over to Substack before literally everyone and their mother got there. I was not a pioneer by any stretch of the imagination, but I think I was there in 2022. I was there early. So I have a fairly big, I think it's like 40,000 subscribers. I'm very religious about it. I do it every Wednesday. Do you need to have a Substack or a newsletter in order to get anywhere in the world? I mean, of publishing. I tell people right now, if you don't already have a newsletter, this is not really the time to start one, unless you know exactly why you're doing it and you've already started publishing on that topic elsewhere in magazines or articles. Because with Substack, especially, it's so oversaturated. It's quite crowded. It's quite crowded right now. That's okay. You can still join, but if you're thinking, if you join Substack and within a year you're going to get a book deal, I hope that that's true, but it could take more time than you imagine to get noticed, just because it's so busy, and they've made it a very social media thing with algorithms and stuff. So it's a bit tricky, and it's also sort of the Olympian league of newsletters where there's a lot of, you have to come with branded assets, meaning like a logo, a watermark, a subheader, a head, like all this copywriting stuff. If you don't already have those things prepared, you just don't get noticed, whereas other platforms, MailChimp, or even through your own author website, like Squarespace has a really, really good one. Wix is a nightmare. If anyone has Wix, do not try it on Wix. I had one. Oh my God.
Yes.
Squarespace is really, really good. You have one? Wix?
Yeah. It took me years to get it where it is, and I just can't do anything more with it.
Okay, so
it's tough.
The number one piece of advice I have for you is
delete it.
Stop. It's never going to get better. You need to face the music. Go to Squarespace. It'll be worth, just honestly, please. I feel like my heart, Wix is so bad.
Honestly, I'm quite tech savvy. I like to learn stuff. I've done everything with the show.
WordPress is impossible.
It's taken me so many hours, and it's so hard.
See, this is not acceptable. You're supposed to be spending time right. This is a bad trait that you have. Get off Wix, Squarespace, whatever. Okay, and then what's changing in publishing? Well, fascism comes to mind. I mean, as an American, we are losing left and right the places where there was book review coverage or radio shows that talked about books. There's obviously a lot of pressure to promote a certain kind of book with a certain kind of agenda. So at least in the United States right now, it's just so hard to find a way to let people, it's a big country, to let people know about your book. And this is why publishers are pushing newsletters so much. It's just really, it's very hard. So hopefully the fascism is temporary. And then also I had Elizabeth Day onto my Substack yesterday. And I was asking her if celebrity book clubs are big in the UK, and she said no. So that's something else that's changed here. It's like, because we're starting to lose so many places where a person had a chance in hell of getting some news out about their book. Now there's like so much pressure if you get a decent book deal to like land the celebrity book club, which is just, it's like a 1 in 100,000. It's not likely to happen for most people. But then if you don't get it, there doesn't seem to be robust and sensible marketing plans around like, okay, well, how do we pivot? What now? So at least in the United States, the Elizabeth called it a stranglehold, of the celebrity book clubs. And then, God, my one piece of advice. I think my most important advice would be, I think I'll say, try really hard to not be bitter. When I was bitter and angry and competitive, that was the lowest time in my life. It was when the writing went the worst for me. The writing itself wasn't good. I was getting rejected everywhere. It is when I started to let go of that, like, I deserved a book deal and someone else messed it up. It did all this bitterness, and started opening my heart to like write in your own voice, write in your own funny way, accept like you killed it at this spoken word series. People were buying you beers. That was a huge success. That felt good. Just like take that. And it's when I really started to be able to hear about other people's successes and truly be happy for them, which by the way, requires not being friends with people you don't like. That's a bad habit, to be friends with people that you actually don't like or are truly jealous of. Just move on. It's okay to not be friends with them. So once I started, maintaining the friendships, people I truly, truly loved, and had that feeling of, oh my God, like you were in the New Yorker, like that's amazing. You're so talented. Like you deserve it, and not like this person's a hack, because I just wasn't friends with those people anymore. Not only was I so much happier, but that is when things started to change for me. When I started to really to just truly be grateful for whatever it was that I had, things started to change. So I think my number one piece of advice would be to try to not be bitter and jealous and competitive, and just be really grateful that you have a passion that has you at a laptop instead of in a coal mine.
Absolutely. You said the word just before you said it again there, which was gratitude, and that's what I was thinking of the entire time you're talking about it. And it does change your perspective and make you just appreciate what you are doing, what you've got, rather than what the envy train that everyone,
the envy train
gets bitter at. Yeah,
try to get off the envy train.
Get off the envy train.
With your feet in the grass, like
yes.
And also, if you are on the envy train, do not be on social media. Do not start posting about how envy and angry and, doing nasty things like that will come back to bite you big time. Yeah. Big time. I was on the envy train once and wrote a really scathing review of a novel that ended up becoming like one of the most powerful people in the United States. So that was dumb. Yeah, don't post bitter. Don't post angry. Don't negatively review people's books. It's just mean. You don't want people doing that to you.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Chris, for those all your questions crammed in there. And he said this Substack thing was a joke because he couldn't figure out how to do it. But there you go. So I've got one last question, and then we'll find out where people can buy your books and where they can visit your site. And that final question is, say you're years down the line, looking back on your life, what would success mean to you?
Success would mean that I finally get the river shack of my dreams in North Florida, where I desperately want to have a kind of humid writing shack that's just for me. And I have my siblings and loved ones who come and visit me, and we float down the river. And I have reached the kind of success where I don't have to be super available. And in fact, like maybe my agent has to fax me.
Ooh,
yeah,
I like that.
Flex, or like overnight her requests.
Yeah,
because I don't have a mailbox. Not because I like what I'm doing right now, being really available. But yeah, there will. I'm almost 50, and there will come a time. I think I see it in my 60s. I just want to be in a caftan with my cats, and maybe there's a snake out on the patio. I don't care, on this Ishnatukney River in North Florida, just sweating and writing my stories, and people can only reach me by my P.O. box. That would be dope.
I love the imagery of it. What would you call the snake?
Well, it would depend on.
You'd have to have a name.
I'd call it Kirkus. Kirkus hated Alan Ops out. So yeah, it would be named Kirkus.
Oh, amazing.
Kirkus, the big black snake.
Brilliant. Okay, so before we wrap it up, where can people follow you? Where can they find out about your amazing writing retreats? Where can they get your stuff?
Please come to Spain.
You're booking all of those things.
CourtneyMaum.com. The New Mexico retreat is already filled up, but CourtneyMaum.com, M-A-U-M. Maybe you'll put it in the show notes or whatever. CourtneyMaum.com. Well, anyway, this is how you spell my name. Yes. Has everything. That, and under classes, that's where all my online classes are. I'm going on a nationwide tour in June in the States, but so far the UK, no one's asked me to show up anywhere. So I don't. And then the Spain retreat is a week long in 2027 from May 10th to the 17th. And then the books, I mean, again, only Alan Opts Out is actually coming out in the UK. It's with John Murray. This is not the cover. June 4th, I think it comes out in the UK. So you can get that one right there. And then everything else, I guess you'll have to look at the big bad Amazon. Not that I want to make Jeff Bezos richer. Or you talk to influential people around you and be like, hey, get on the horn, publish her other books, especially before and after the book deal, in our wonderful country.
You can go request it from your shops and they'll buy it in, surely.
Yeah, go en masse.
Yes, do that.
Yeah.
So
and then
Courtney,
Instagram, like I'm in the places. And my Substack before and after the book deal.
Yes, definitely. Courtney, thank you so much. Honestly, a great conversation, inspiring journey, and so many writing tips through this conversation. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
It's my pleasure. And you're sort of deep in your evening now, and I get to start mine. So this has been a really cheerful way to start my Friday. Thank you so much for having me. And we hope to stay in touch.
Yes,
and please get off Wix. My God, at least for your newsletter, just for your newsletter. You don't need that. You don't need to be out there in the streets with.
Yes.
It's
absolutely.
too much.
Everyone that's tuned in, thank you so much for doing so. Whether you're watching it live right now or you're watching it back or listening back on the podcast, thank you so much. If you're new here, because we're new on Substack to do this, we've been around for 6 years, ranked number 3 in the UK Writing Podcast of 2025. We've got over 400 interviews to go and check out, so please do that and give us a follow on Substack. We're growing that community. And thank you to Courtney for sharing her story with us. Everybody, have a great, fantastic weekend and stay very safe. Get my words out. Thank you all. See you all very soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.